Our next question, Jim, sent in to CornyDriveThru at gmail.com from Craig Whiteman. WWE recently broadcast a special on the top 50 tag teams in WWF, WWF, and WWE history. These are only tag teams that wrestled in WWE, but it seems they also took into account work in other territories. I'd love to hear Jim's feedback. Have you seen this list of the top 50 tag teams of all time?
No, well, people were tweeting it as, I guess they released it in dribbles and drabs, like a week here or a week there, whatever day, and they 10 at a time. And I honestly didn't go through it with any minute detail. I know when they got to number one, I know who they named it. I just laughed and went on. But is this even serious enough that we really need to look at it? I can, if you want.
I mean, I could ask you, because a lot of people have sent it in, but again, you kind of hit on it. How do you take this seriously? It's a joke list. I'm going to read you just the top 10 to start. We'll see where we want to go from here.
Yeah.
You'll see. I mean, it's a WWE-centric list. Top 10, I'm going to go from...
Well, I don't even mind WWE-centric list if it's if the name of the list is the top 10 teams in WWE history, and that takes into account WWF and WWF, I can buy that. Just when they got to number one, that's when I fucking blew snot. Because come on, seriously.
Well, here's 10 to 1. Number 10, the British Bulldogs. Number 9, the Brothers of Destruction.
Well, wait a minute. Hold on now. Slow down here a second.
Okay.
Let's not just throw this away, because I have a feeling we won't want to go past the top 10.
And by the way, I have 50 names. So you can tell me wherever you want me to start.
Yeah, no, let's start.
Oh, my God. Hold on.
Did you just now see number one?
No, I just now saw some of the other ones. I'm going to read you. This is ridiculous. I'm going to read you from 36 to 30.
Okay, all right.
Number 36, Money Inc., Ted DiBiase and Erwin R. Shyster.
Okay.
Number 35, greatest tag teams in company history, Jericho, Chris Jericho and The Big Show. Exactly. Number 34, The Natural Disasters, Earthquake and Typhoon. Number 33, The Street Profits, Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins. Number 32, The Briscoe Brothers, Jack and Jerry Briscoe.
Yeah, this one. Okay.
Even if it was a company list, they were only in the company as a tag team for a few months.
Well, but besides that, you have, honestly, Ted DiBiase and IRS, who had some fairly swell run, 3 points below Chris Jericho and Big Show that did whatever the fuck for a couple of months, and the Street Profits that I couldn't pick out of a lineup, followed by the Briscoe Brothers. If you're going to stick them in there, then rate them as their entire body of work instead of the 2 months they spent in the WWF, because how can the Briscoe Brothers be number 30-something on a list of tag teams? But go ahead. This is so rottenly random. Go ahead.
You'll be happy to know that OVW veterans Eminem were number 42 on the list.
Oh, Jesus Christ. All right.
But I'll go back up to the top of the list here. I'm trying to scan it to see if there's any other interesting ones that pop out. The Soul Patrol, Rocky Johnson and Tony Atlas, number 19. They only tagged up like a handful of times because they hated each other. So that's interesting they got to the top. But here's number 10 to 1. Number 10, the British Bulldogs.
And that's what I was going to say. The British Bulldogs, on the surface of it, a top 10 tag team in the WWF or any iteration of it, that's perfectly reasonable, right? My God, imagine that run at a period of time where business was huge.
In terms of influence, in terms of popularity, and of course, if you were looking at the decade of the 80s, they were on the short list of the top tag teams of the decade. So that's reasonable.
Reasonable.
Number 9, the Brothers of Destruction, Undertaker and Kane.
I think just because of the star power that both of those guys possess, I wouldn't think of either one of them as tag team wrestlers.
That's
but
it.
Even though they, but at the same point of that level of star power and magnitude, since they did team up, I can buy that. Top 10.
Number 8, the New Age Outlaws, Road Dogg and Billy Gunn.
Now I'm starting to think, well, wait a minute. Where's the Road Warriors? Where's the Hard Foundation? I'm starting to think of I like both guys, but for top 10, I'm starting to think about, wait a minute, there's a number of teams not accounted for yet at this point. We're using spaces.
They are one of my least favorite tag teams of all time. And I can't think of a single like classic match of theirs or great match. And I know you could point to maybe the stuff with them and Mick and Terry Funk.
I can point to the King of the Ring at one year when with the new Midnight Express, Bart Gunn and Bob Holly wrestled the Billy Gunn and Road Dogg, and I had to stand there frozen in time for like a minute and a half, waiting for China to figure out she had to run completely around the other side of the ring to come in behind me and nut shot me. Go ahead.
Number 7, the Usos, Jimmy and Jay.
I like those guys from what I've seen of them. It hasn't been that much, but we're still where the fuck is the Hart Foundation and the Road Warriors and fucking Rockers and teams that you would think in the WWF history that still need to be taking up a couple of these spots.
You know, that is one of the interesting things, because when you look at the British Bulldogs were there 85 to 88. Demolition, who were number 11 on this
Demolition.
list.
They were number 11?
Number 11. Well, you know, Bill Eadie and Vince will get along, but number 11, Demolition were there from, they debuted in 87. They finished up with Bill Eadie in 1990. They kind of slowly went into 1991 and then they broke up. And a lot of these teams are only together a few years. The Usos have been a team and been in WWE for, I mean, I don't know the exact year, but it has to be close to a decade. So although they're not as memorable as some of these tag teams from the, or really all the tag teams from the 80s, I guess if you're equating their run and just the amount of years they've been there and the titles they've held, I guess that would be the justification, right?
Well, but length is only good in other things. You can be the world's worst at something and do it for 20 years. But maybe we should figure out a formula, because if you were a top team in the 80s or 90s, you were seen by the equivalent number of people in 2 or 3 years as in modern day teams are seen in 10. So maybe it's like dog years. We got to figure out an equation.
How many people were you seen by a week? I mean, those teams worked house shows every night. That's the other thing. I mean, you got to see them over and over and over. But to continue on with the list.
Well, I can't even do the math in my head now. I could get the Midnight Express book out and try, but this is July. The month of July 35 years ago was the 1986 Great American Bashes. We probably were seen by, just that month, 200,000 people live, plus television, and all the programs were being seen by well over 1 million people.
Well, speaking of the Great American Bash, number 6 on the list, the Legion of Doom, Hawk and Animal.
Okay, top 10 anywhere, even though the Road Warriors was their real box office run, but they'd need on the list regardless.
Number 5, the Dudley Boys, Bubba Ray and Devon.
Actually, I'm trying to think, has there been a tag team since them in the WWF that's been worth a shit as a tag team, as any kind of impact on the box office?
I'm not a big fan of theirs, but I don't think there's any tag team today that is as over as the Dudleys were at their peak with WWE.
So, top 10, yes. I'm not sure about the placement.
Number 4, Edge and Christian.
Again, they were a great team. Did they mean more to where's the Hart Foundation?
They are on the list.
Okay, but
I'll spoil it right now. Number 3 is the Hart Foundation.
Okay, I don't know if Edge and Christian, just in terms of box office or popularity or whatever, should be ahead of the Bulldogs, but I can take it. It's not egregious. And the Hart Foundation is number 3. What team from the 80s do you think of, really, if you think of WWF 80s, what team do you think of more or most? You were even a bigger 80s WWF fan than I was.
For the 80s, it would be Bulldogs and the Hart. Well, for mid-80s, Bulldogs and the Hearts, and then like by 89, Demolition. People forget just how big Demolition was, but 89 into WrestleMania 6, Demolition were massive. with me and all my friends, and then they just completely cooled them off and blew the Road Warriors feud right away.
Yeah. But anyway, so yes, Hart Foundation number 3. But I know who number 1 is, but I'm trying to think who could be number 2.
Well, it's pretty obvious when you look at who was number 5 and who was number 4. Number 2, the Hardy Boys, Matt and Jeff.
Ooh. I can say top 10 with them, but I can't. I don't. On top of the Hart Foundation, on top of the Bulldogs, on top of the Road Warriors. I'm not sure about the placement.
Some other ones, of course. New Day number 1. You already knew that.
No, we didn't say it on the program, but I already knew it, and that's where I just fucking blew snot and didn't even pay attention to the list. Because come on, fucking seriously. The New Day is better than the Bulldogs, and better than the Hart Foundation, and better than the Road Warriors, and better than the Edge of Christian, and better than what fucking marks make these lists up? I'm not even saying they suck, but seriously? That's like just because, well, let's take the best baseball player we have on our current team and rank them above Joe DiMaggio, Ty Cobb, Babe Ruth, and fucking Mickey Mantle because we don't have those guys anymore.
Well, that was the list of the 50 greatest tag teams in WWE history as selected by WWE.
As selected by some minion deep in the bowels of the building, as Vince loves to say. Vince loves the word bowels.
That doesn't surprise me one bit, but Jim...
That's why the boiler room, the arena-wide fights that they used to have in the Attitude Era, they're in the bowels of the building.